Okay, it's time. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. My name is Chintan Jain, and today we are going to talk about unlocking the future, how Generation Alpha will redefine identity and authentication. So currently, I'm a senior director of platform and product security at Hilton, and I have expertise in consumer identity, security architecture, authentication, and related fields. I'm a speaker, mentor, and volunteer, and I have done a lot of innovation with more than 40 plus approved patents in US and like other countries like EU and China and Japan, and I also have like 10 patents in the field of consumer identity and authentication. So, in order to wake you up, I am going to just like ask you, like, do you know that, have you traveled in a spaceship? Like, we are in a spaceship right now, because guess what, Earth is a spaceship. Earth is spinning at 1000 miles per hour and revolving at 67,000 miles per hour around the sun. On top of that, our solar system is also traveling at almost 490,000 miles per hour. Our galaxy is also traveling, like our solar system is obviously in the galaxy, Milky Way galaxy, which is traveling at 500,000 miles per hour, which means that we all are traveling right now at 1 million miles per hour and spinning at 1000 miles per hour. So, if that doesn't wake you up, okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So, first to start with, I'm going to define what generations we are talking about, what is generation alpha. So, like the first is like generation builders, right? And the builders are the people who are currently of the age 79 plus years. They were, and then we have boomers, we have generation X, generation Y, generation Z, and Gen Alpha, and these are all the age ranges, right? Majority of the people in this room might be boomers to generation Z. What we don't see here is Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha were born post 2010 and 2010 to 2024. The next generation is going to be called generation Beta, which is going to come 2025 and later. And like major life events that form our personality are like builders went through Great Depression and World War II, boomers went through Civil Rights Movement and Vietnam War, Generation X went through Cold War, World War II again, and then fall of Berlin Wall. Generation Y went through Great Recession. Generation Z went through September 11 attacks and war on terror and gun violence. We have seen a lot of gun violence in Generation Z. And Gen Alpha, if you have kids, you know, like COVID-19 happened during Gen Alpha, and remote learning and diverse population. Like right now, if you go and look in the schools, we are very, very diverse population. So these are the major life events that are going to hone how we are going to behave, right? So who is Gen Alpha? So the Gen Alpha was born between 2010 and 2024. Mostly they are children of Gen Y. At least one of their parent is Gen Y. They will start reaching adulthood in 2028. So in 3 years from now, we will start seeing Gen Alpha. Now 63% of millennial women, they use social media after becoming pregnant. It means that when Gen Alpha were in their mother's womb, the mother was already using social media and smartphones. Right now, we have 2 billion Gen Alpha population in 2025, and it is estimated to be 2.4 billion in 2029. And by 2029, they are going to create a whopping economic footprint of almost $5.5 trillion. So, what are the technological advancements for generations that we have seen? So, builders saw automobiles, aircrafts, and indoor plumbing. Boomers saw Apollo moon landings, and they saw like audio devices, portable audio devices like Sony Walkman and recorders. Generation X saw a lot of explosion of consumer electronics, personal computers, emails, cell phones. Generation Y saw internet, smartphones, social media platforms, mobile video, digital cameras. Gen Z saw streaming devices, drones, Bitcoin and blockchain, like we are all going through that right now. Information and cyber warfare, which we are seeing a lot nowadays, and cloud computing. And Gen Alpha, which are like kids who were born 2010 and later. If you have kids, you already know that they are spending a lot of time on Instagram and TikTok. They are also going to see emergence of AI and VR, virtual reality. They are going to see voice assistant, generative AI. Like they are going to see the generative AI, obviously they are seeing generative AI, and they are going to see that AI become more and more mature, where it's going to become more and more interactive. Like if you saw the ChatGPT 4 Omni, you see like it's not just taking the text, it's taking text, video, voice, everything, image, and then it is like very, very real time and having a very real conversation with emotions, right? So we are going to see that mature more and more. Obviously, they are going to see electric and self-driving cars. We have already seen self-driving cars, which are just going through a lot of evolution right now. Maybe we will see self-driving cars which we consider safe to sit in. Like I have a Tesla and I don't like I have self-driving, but I don't don't feel safe, so I don't use the full self-driving feature in that right now. But I think it's going to get more mature, and we are going to see more and more maturity in self-driving cars. So sometimes I even wonder our kids are going to know how to drive because they are going to be sitting in the self-driving cars. They are going to see maturity of AI robots, and they are obviously we are already seeing Internet of Things. Like everything is the Internet of Things right now, which has like connection to the internet. They are connected over wireless or over the wire. So as you see, like a lot of technological advancements have happened, and they will continue to happen. And I believe that because of the emergence of AI, the pace of innovation is going to explode, right? So we are going to see a lot of innovation in a very short time. So in the meantime, while these technological advancements have happened, how the identity and authentication has evolved. So like obviously the 1978 to 82, we saw rapid evolution of personal computers, and then Amazon was launched in 1995, and that's when SSL2 was also released. In 1999, TLS 1.0 was released, and basic authentication RFC published, right? Which at least then the users were able to enter the username and password. It was over TLS 1.0, so at least they were able to do safe transactions. But then we found a lot of vulnerabilities, which led to release of TLS 1.1 and 1.2 between like 2008, 2000, like somewhere here it is. Yeah, 2014 to 2016 is when we saw like TLS. Actually, 2006 to 2008 is when we saw the emergence of TLS 1.1 and 1.2. And TLS 1.3 came recently in 2018. Most of the people are not using TLS 1.3, but we will start seeing a lot of adoption there. And in the meantime, a lot of authentication protocols have come in, which have helped us do single sign-on and trust third parties with the authentication, namely SAML in 2005, OAuth 2 in 2010. Social login was introduced by Facebook in like using Facebook and Google in 2011, and then we continue to see a lot of biometrics. So like Apple released the device biometric authentication using Touch ID in 2013, and then they released in 2017 they released Face ID, and right now in 2024 or 2023, actually 2024, they released the biometric authentication using the iris scan on the Vision Pro. So like we are seeing a lot of innovation happening in the biometric industry right now. And obviously the digital ID proofing came in 2016, and Open ID in 2014. So basically what I'm trying to show in this slide is like the identity and authentication has evolved quite a bit. And with the previous slide, where there are a lot of technological advancements happening in the field of AI, machine learning, robots, AI, right? A lot of these trends are going to like combine, fuse, and going to create a lot of disruption in the identity and authentication space that the generation alpha is going to see. So what has happened, like how does this identity and authentication affect the future generations, like current generations? So first, the username and password login is legacy, right? So all of our current generations are okay using it. So they are like, okay, like we know, like yesterday I attended a talk and they were saying like a Google talk, and they were saying like an average American has 240 accounts, and like we are okay like remembering all those passwords either in a password manager or by reusing the same username and password over multiple sites. But anyways, like even though we hate it, we are still okay with it. SAML SSL login has gained a lot of traction, and it continues to be used quite a bit in the company use cases, enterprise use cases, where you have an intranet and then you are just associating to various service providers. So most of the time we are okay using it. I said builders are not okay because builders might not be in the workforce right now, but boomers, maybe they are okay, they are not, but they still use it, but we are all okay with it, right? Like one of the generations X to generation Y. Social login, so there is a lot of privacy concerns with social login, so a lot of people are not like the former generations are not very comfortable using social login. Maybe Gen Y and Gen Z, I think they are okay using it, but previous generations are not comfortable using social login. Maybe they don't even know what social login is. They get confused. They think that if you are entering your username and password on a website like Google, like maybe you're giving away your Google username and password to that website. So they are not aware of these protocols, so they are confused. The passwordless login, again, like future generations don't use it. Generation X, Generation Y, we are neither love it nor hate it. And then Generation Z, like very much likes it, right? Like, and the reason I say this is with passkeys, we see a lot of adoption right now. And I'm going to talk about how much adoption we are seeing, but login with passkeys, login with SMS OTP, login with email OTP, we are seeing a lot of adoption there. So like again, like when you see not all the generations like all the methods equally. Online digital ID proofing, again, this is where you take a selfie, you take the first and last like front and back image of your ID and submit it to the provider to do the ID verification. It's a complicated process, right? So people generally don't like it. Like the former generations, they don't use it at all. But the current generations like us, when we use it, we hate it because the user experience is not very good. So what do you think happened with generation alpha? Like how much, and obviously biometric authentication, I forgot about that. So generally people are not okay using the biometric authentication if it is not on your device, right? So like if you know that your biometric is not being shared with the service provider, you will be fine using biometric. Like, but if I know that I'm using iPhone and I'm using my Face ID, I know that my biometric is on my device. So then I'm not going to, I'm fine with that because there are a lot of concerns with what they will do with biometric authentication. Like if there is a data leak, the passwords can be changed, but the biometrics cannot be changed. Like if they were storing your biometrics and there is a data leak. So there are a lot of concerns with biometric authentication. So what will happen with Gen Alpha? So Gen Alpha is definitely not going to like the username and password login. They are not going to like SAML SSO login, and they will be okay with all these other methods of authentication. They will be okay with using social login, passwordless login, digital ID proofing because they are spending so much time online. So they are very, very well versed in all these technologies, and they will be able to just use their, like if you ask them for identity verification, they will be able to give their driver license and they will be able to log in. And biometric authentication, they will be fine doing that too. So how is this, like all these trends are going to affect what generation alpha is going to use for logging in? So I think passkeys, like we already see, like FIDO Alliance, I got this quote from FIDO Alliance. They say that 2023 has been the year of passkeys. Major consumer brands began offering them to more than 7 billion user accounts ready for passwordless sign-in. A lot of users are seeing it. Last year when I gave the talk, I said like passkeys are in the chasm, but I think it has come a long way, and we are going to see more and more passkeys, especially when I talk to some of like our vendors, they say that they are seeing a lot of adoption in the passkeys area. So I think, and this works for both consumer and enterprise use cases. So like the SAML that I showed, generation alpha is not going to use, maybe they will use like passkeys to logging in, right? And maybe like instead of, so it replaces username and password. So we will have to like adopt our protocols to work with that. Biometric authentication will be everywhere for Gen Alpha. So like we are already seeing device biometric and passkeys right now, right? Like when you use your passkey, you have to do like a biometric authentication. But then we are also going to see a lot of evolution happen in the biometrics. So when the service provider is storing the biometrics, they are not storing it as plain text. Maybe they are like just how we hash the passwords and store it. And so if the database get leaked, like if it was strongly hashed, then you are safe, right? Like if it was like a strong algorithm that was used to hash the passwords. So something like that will happen with biometric. I think they will use like a very, very strong method to hash the biometric. And then when the user authenticates using the biometric, then they are going to compare the hash just like you compare the password. So, I think that is coming, right. But again, there is a lot of user education that will be required, because again, like the past generations think that biometric is very insecure, but maybe Gen Alpha, they are more willing to give their data, they want better customer experience, so they will be okay giving their biometrics. And again, we are seeing a lot of evolution in the payments space, where you enroll, like you map your, like an Amazon one did that, right, with the Whole Foods. Basically, you like take your hand and link it to a card, and then you walk into like one of the stores and you just present your palm, like, and then they will be able to charge your credit card because it was linked. So, we are going to see a lot of adoption in the payment space, and then biometrics is also going to be used for continuous authentication. So, biometric is not just physical traits, like the physical traits is like fingerprint, iris scan, face ID, like all of these are physical traits. But there are also some passive biometric traits. The passive biometric traits is like if you are logging into a site and then you are using your mouse, using your keyboard, the way you are doing it is very, very different than how other people are doing it. So, maybe they can use that to also continuously authenticate you. So, during the entire customer journey, they are collecting this data, and then they are able to verify that it is you, rather than asking you for another authentication. They are, and some of the service providers are already doing that, but we are not very mature right now. Like we use it at the login time, we are not using it at continuous authentication. So, I think there is a lot of scope there where we are able to use the continuous authentication throughout the customer journey when the customer is doing transactions on your site. So, again, I think biometrics is the next frontier in consumer identity, and we are going to see a lot of evolution and adoption in biometrics. Identity and payments obviously will be majorly digitized. We are already seeing that right now, like a lot of credit cards are being stored in one of the payment wallets. We are also going to see a lot of maturity with the identity being stored in the wallets. So, like India rolled out a big something called DigiLocker, and right now they are storing all their IDs of, and it's used by what 90 million users, like that. And basically what they are doing is they are able to take your driver's license, your school diploma, and put it in a wallet provided by the government. And then when somebody asks you to prove that is like ask for the document, they are able to just without carrying the physical documents, they are just able to present the document. And they also passed a law that they have to accept that form of electronic identification. So, and like they rolled it out really well. And with DigiYatra, there is another travel app they developed, and basically this is like when you are traveling and you check in DigiYatra, then they are able to do all the identity verification, and you are just able to just walk during the boarding process without any identity verification. So, there is a lot of innovation that is going to happen, obviously with the verifiable credentials, like Andre Durand's keynote, right? With the verified credentials, what can happen is you are doing both identity and authentication at the same time, because you have the possession of your identity and then it's signed and you are able to present it during the login time. So, the user experience is still not very baked in, but we are going to see a lot of innovation in this field where this verifiable credentials can be used not just during enrollment KYC, but also signing in. One other thing that we are going to see a lot is like a lot of innovation in Gen AI. So, again, like this is my prediction. So, right now if you see like the Chat GPT, or like if you go to like Microsoft Copilot, or it's very, very chat focused, right? So, it reminds me of the command prompt that back in 80s, right? So, like you can't do much, like you prompt and then it will give you results. And then so what will happen is generative AI is going to like in near future, I think it's going to replace the password vault. And basically what will happen is you are able to, it becomes like a personal AI agent for you, and you are able to store all your usernames and passwords inside generative AI, right? And then you authenticate a strong authentication to this chatbot, and then you can type in that log me into my bank, and then it is able to retrieve that, and that it is able to retrieve that, and it is able to log you into that. So I think there is a lot of innovation is going to come with the combination of generative AI and this authentication technologies. Maybe you are able to store your verified credentials in there, and now you don't have, you just store it one time, and this process will take care of everything to authenticate you. Like you don't have to go through the whole experience again, right, to authenticate to a service provider. And I think it's going to become very interactive, where the whole operating system is going to become very, very intelligent, and then you are going to require one-time setup where you just go and put all your username and passwords in there, and then you have a strong authentication, and then with the click of button you are able to log into the service providers, and this can be all of them, right. So I think there is a lot of, and it will provide continuous authentication, contextual and behavioral biometrics that I was talking about, and it is going to be very personalized. So I think there is a lot, and something I call Gen UI SSO, Gen AI SSO, there's a typo here. So basically what will happen is, like the Gen AI or your personal AI becomes like a identity provider, and then you click on one of the things, like just how the SAML login, your ID provider is your Active Directory or something, and then you are able to go and authenticate through the service provider. I think that will happen with Gen AI SSO, where the Gen AI is going to store all your authentication credentials, and they don't have to be username and password. So what Gen Alpha is going to see, again, I'm like making a prediction for like 5 years down the line, but again, I don't know, because it's so fast right now. The pace of innovation is so fast. Maybe you will start seeing that in 2 years. So what you will see is, like, just with a click of button, you are able to log into the service provider with very, very good security. And we are going to see a lot of variable authentication. So something that when I was doing a research, they are already talking about a body area network. Like, I know we have heard about LAN and WAN, but something kind body area network is like, right now, like I'm carrying like 4 devices already. I have a MacBook, I have an iPhone, I have Apple Watch, and they are all able to communicate, and they are able to help with the second factor authentication, right? Because my Apple Watch is collecting my heartbeats and a lot of data. My like iPhone is collecting a lot of my location, health data, and things like that, and they are all going to combine in order to create a strong authentication. So maybe it will replace MFA, right? Because if you are able to form strong bond between these devices, because these devices, they don't talk to each other very nicely. So again, like we will see Gen Alpha use a lot of variables, and again, like we are able to collect a lot of biometric signals using these variables. And obviously, like with Apple Vision Pro, you already saw, I talked about that we are already seeing an optic ID where they are able to just wear it and they are able to authenticate it's you. So you don't even have to enter any username and password. So like with variables, and then for high use cases, we are also going to see the emergence of like augmented reality and virtual reality authentication. So like you saw, like with deep fakes, there is a big problem, but we can use the augmented reality and augmented reality authentication to map the whole user's face and compare it to what we have stored. So we are going to see a use of AR authentication, augmented reality authentication to aid biometric for 3D imaging and liveness detection, and it is going to help combat deepfake attack. So we are not going to see directly, but we are going to see a lot of it. And then for high security use cases, we may even see like augmented reality combined with virtual reality, where you are able to make an image that only you know by like just like how you make on your like Android phone, right? You make an image, you are able to make that image virtually, and then you are able to authenticate, and only you know that image. So we are going to see that. Again, it all depends how much of these devices get adopted. Like during the COVID times, we were thinking that the metaverse is going to get adopted quite a bit, but that was not the case. But we continue to see all these new devices that are coming in right now. So the key takeaways: Rome was not built in a day. And like I just modified this quote. It was from Elizabeth Gilbert. It says, what worked yesterday doesn't always work today. And I just said, like, what worked yesterday and today would not work tomorrow. So time is ripe for fusion of very, very innovative technologies to create disruption in current SAM landscape. We have to offer passwordless authentication today, device biometrics, digital identity verification, digital payments, continuous and contextual authentication. And then we have to keep an eye out for the rapid innovation in AI assisted authentication, variable, AR and VR authentication and more advancements in biometric authentication, and we have to start today because you will start seeing generation alpha very, very soon, and they are coming fast, like in 3 years, at a keyboard or a mouse near you. Thank you. I'm already out of my time, so thank you.